Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Attack on Titan. Last time around, we watched the OVA, what was it? An Unexpected Visitor? The Torturous Curse of Adolescence, or something along those lines. Where basically we cut to the gang while they were still training with the cadets, and they were doing a training run in Trost, and everyone was outshining Jean, and then Jean challenged Sasha to a cook-off. Well, challenged her, and then Pixis decided it to be a cook-off. Jean was also having problems with his mother for no other reason other than he's just sort of an edgy teen. And then he won the cook-off by serving an omelet made by his mother, and then he learned not to be such a dick. Yeah. Anyway, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure, so let's go ahead and get right into this OVA of Attack on Titan. Here we go. Alrighty. That is OVA number 3. Interesting. Very interesting. It actually reminds me, there's a similar episode of The Legend of Korra, actually, where all the, slight spoiler alert, all the new airbenders are trying to save the baby bison from some hunters, some poachers. So yeah, definitely very interesting stuff here. And again, man, I gotta say, I'm really enjoying these side stories, you know? Like, and especially, and again, not to get too much into it, but just after every crazy thing that's happened in Attack on Titan, pretty much since the beginning, let's be honest, this show has been jam-packed with crazy story and stuff. It's nice to just see... it's nice to just have these side stories, you know? Just stuff while they were training, you know? I like that. So, yeah. So, we have another cadet training mission, which was interesting. This one being a test of endurance, which I actually really liked. So, I like how thought out a lot of these are. It's not just the normal, go swing around and train. It's like, I like how varied some of these can get, where on this one, it was going around, having two teams go, and then, you know, they write down, they get all the information, they meet up, pass it along to the other team, you know, giving as much information as possible, and then they go their separate ways until they make the loop back. That's very, very interesting, because, yeah, that's definitely, you know, stuff you need to understand. It's, you know, first off, it's in testing, it's testing their endurance, which is very good. Because, yeah, long missions like this, especially if they, you know, join the scouts, missions like this you have to endure, you know? Like, we've only really seen a couple scout missions, you know? Excuse me. We've only seen a couple scout missions, and presumably, I mean, I don't know how often the scouts sleep, you know? Or, I mean, like, when they're on the mission, like, do the missions last that long? I imagine sometimes they do. And you're out there, you know, you're going through, you're riding out for a long time, and then after that, like, you're going through all of this, riding on horseback, you have to endure all of that, so you can still be in tip-top shape if a Titan shows up, and, you know, you have to be ready for things to change at a moment's notice, and then having to endure, even though it's, you know, you almost think, like, oh, this is part of the endurance, but I think it is, that you also have to sleep outside the walls, which at first doesn't sound too bad. Like, oh, whatever, you sleep. But it's like, if they are sleeping out in Titan-infested land, you gotta be pretty careful about that, you know? What I would imagine, especially for the scouts, is that, you know, people sleep and there's people on watch. And so if you see a Titan, flare goes up, everyone gets up. You see a flare, you send another flare to make sure everyone else wakes up, you know, and you got to be ready to get your ass up at a moment's notice, you know? So yeah, it's a very good exercise, definitely, even though these cadets weren't really taking it seriously, you know. And to be fair, they weren't in Titan infested. They weren't in Titan country. Presumably they were still in the walls. Although I must say I love the setting of this because we never really see. I would imagine this must be. I mean, I don't know if they said where exactly it is, but I like this sort of setting. This almost like deserty sort of Southwest America sort of vibe, you know. Even if it's not just a complete, you know, just whatever flat desert or anything, but that sort of area, you know, the sort of dry, arid, like the Southwest. And that's very interesting because we don't really see a lot of that in the actual show. Pretty much, you know, with the exception of like going to the center and the capital, most of everything we see, I think, is in the south of the walls, you know. Now I don't remember like Orvid district and stuff like that we get later on in season 3. I don't remember if that's more northern. I think it might have been, but still. But the other part of that too is that all the Titans have come from the south, so it makes sense that most of the show takes place there. But I like this, like it makes sense to have them go, even though they didn't really play this up, but the conditions there, like, yeah, this sort of arid, you know, climate where it's hot, it's dry, like they didn't play it up too much, but that would also be part of it. You have to condition yourself to the outdoors. It's one of those interesting things where it's like, when I think about that, and it's like, oh man, you know, going out and camping and stuff like that and being a part of the scouts, like that does sound so cool. But I will tell you right now, I hate the outdoors. I really do. Like, leave me indoors with an air conditioner and a ceiling fan and everything. Like, I hate going outside. So it's so strange that it's like I like the imagery and stuff of like scout expeditions, but I also would probably hate being there, you know? Anyway. They talked about, you know, not wanting to rush and everything. And part of that was Jean saying like, oh, well, there's no need to, you know, do extra, you know, to sort of go over the top. If you can hear that, there's a Christmas clock that's going off right now. And there it goes. Okay. So the whole thing was Jean where he's like, well, I don't need to put in any extra effort because, you know, there's no instructor here that's not going to help me get into the military police. But Aaron, you know, just wanting like, no, we got to go. We got to get this done and stuff like that. One thing, again, they didn't harp on this, but I thought it would have been interesting because you don't want to overwork your horses, you know? Horses have limits too. You can't just, you know, ride them at full speed all day. Even horses have to, you know, conserve their energy. They're living beings, you know? And then we also had the lizard, which was interesting. I like, again, Sasha. So this must take place before last episode if Jean is saying, oh, I didn't know you could cook, you know? Unless that's a backhand, like, oh, really? I didn't think you could cook. You just roasted some meat. But I don't think so. But yeah, so there was the lizard, which was interesting. It's like, oh, it tastes like chicken. And Jean wanting to go for it, and then Aaron saying, oh, no, quit screwing around and stuff like that. And of course, Aaron and Jean getting into it. I mean, there comes a point where I almost tune them out a bit. Mainly because, like, it's always the same argument between the two of them. So there are some times when they really, you know, when they start getting into it where I just sort of, I'm like, okay. And I just sort of, like, maybe catch up on notes or anything. So, yeah. And yeah, so we had some thieves. Some thieves taking 3D maneuver gear, which is interesting. I have heard that where... I have heard that in a couple like videos and stuff where they say the 3D maneuver gear instead of the ODM gear. I imagine that's just a, you know, sort of a syllable difference, you know, when translating it into English. So I don't really put much thought into it. Obviously, it's the exact same thing we're talking about, just two different names. So yeah, taking the ODM gear, which is interesting. Now, I do wonder because we also had this in the show itself when we had that episode that focused on Annie, and it was talking about, you know, it basically had, it's like, oh yeah, they're selling some of these MPs that are selling ODM gear for a quick buck, and it's like, who on the black market actually needs this stuff? Like, because you really would only need, like, unless it's like, oh, well, rich people that want to go have some fun, you know? Like, I don't know, like, now that said, stuff like, you know, Kenny and his squad that we see later on, yeah, I can kind of understand that, but for the most part, I'm sort of sitting here like, well, why do they need that? Why is there this demand in the black market for ODM gear? But either way, they did that, and they also took Krista as a hostage. And I do like that. I do like Aaron kind of being the hero, and even when he's like, look, I don't, like, he doesn't have a plan or anything, but he's like, I'm going to save Krista. I'm not going to leave her behind, you know? And I like that. That was back when Aaron cared about people and was a hero and everything. You know, I like that stuff. Is he a smart hero? No. Is he a deeply flawed hero? Probably, but I like him being a stubborn hero, you know? And boy, is he stubborn, you know? But that's the thing. I liked it back in the day when it was like, no, you know, even if he has these, you know, even no matter his opinions on people, that is a fellow soldier, and I am going to save them. You know, I'm not going to lose a soldier if I can help it, you know? And the same thing, if it was Jean instead of Krista, he would still go out there and try to save him, you know? So, that's the thing. But we had the plan, which was interesting, and figuring out, you know, where the ODM gear was on the wagons, and then we had our fight, and I like that, like, oh, well, Krista got away. You know, they got away with Krista, and then it's like, well, you have your ODM gear now. You can easily catch up to them. And they did. And they were able to save Krista before she was sold on the black market. And then I like using the flare to call for backup. Now, I assume what it also was is that he sends up the flare and then they move on. The B team go, they find the ODM gear, they get it, then they head back, you know. They head over and they find him. So I guess it's something like that. I'm not quite sure like how they knew where to go, but I don't know. Whatever, it all worked out. And Mikasa and Annie got back there, so I like that. Maybe they went out ahead, and because they're just so friggin' fast with the ODM gear, they were able to find them before anything happened. I like Armin talking to Instructor Shadis, and he says basically, you know, what was the right choice? You know, what was the right choice between saving Krista and going back? And I like how Shadis says, you know, how we respond in a time of crisis, you know, which was also part of the point of this one, was how do you respond in times of crisis, you know, not just as a soldier, but as a person, how do you respond to that? And he asked the question, which do you think was the right call? And yeah, honestly, there are merits to both, but it did work out. It worked out with what they chose, you know. There's not necessarily a right answer because there's pros and cons either way. Because there was the possibility that any of them could have died during that. But if they had gone back to you know, their teachers and everything, their instructors, then it was possible they would have lost the ODM gear and Krista. So there is no right answer, but they made a judgment call, and it did. Luckily, it paid off, basically. And then I like that moment at the end between Marco and Aaron, where, you know, it's like, oh, well, I'm not really suited to be a leader, but I think Jean is. And, you know, Aaron's like, I'm not sure. But no, he really is suited to be a leader. And I like Marco saying, you know, I can't wait to see the soldiers that we all become, which is sort of a bittersweet ending when you've watched the rest of the show. But I liked it. I really did like it. But yeah, another good OVA, and I'm curious to see where we are going next time. But that is pretty much it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of my Attack on Titan reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.